Well, here we are again. Every time I think, now I'm going to do this without any glitches, but I don't know whether there were or there weren't, but we're on. And we're lucky to have you, Medina, because obviously you were having a few issues trying to get yourself online at all.
That's true. That's an understatement. But we're here. Yeah.
This is what I love about doing lives because once upon a time we would do everything and make sure everything was perfect, and perfect, as I say so often, is the end of everything, and there's nothing to grow from. So it's not something to strive for. And for me, it's about allowing yourself to be real and true in the moment, and so yeah, it's good. I always enjoyed the bloopers, that you got after they had this perfect sort of looking thing, and then you saw the bloopers, and you saw, and they're far more funny and interesting than the things that they had edited
I remember
on.
that when I do my videos. That's a good tip.
Okay. So, look, welcome again, and everyone who's here, welcome. We had a wonderful discussion last week about creating, birthing this new Earth human, and you have screened that also on your platforms. And how was the response, do you feel, to that discussion?
Fantastic. I think it's at about, from memory, about 360 views or something. So that's pretty good, and I got some lovely feedback from, some people. So yeah, very positive. And I certainly think it's a discussion that, needs to be had. And, that was the feedback I got as well. So yeah, that's great.
And I think, the part one, we really looked at what a new Earth human would look like. So we looked at the possible characteristics and what we would be striving for within ourselves. And, when you really look at that series, it is really who we are in here. That is our natural state of being when we peel off all the programmed and conditioning of eons of enslavement and fear-driven programming. So, it's not something that we have to become. It's something in a way that we have to unbecome.
In fact, I've heard, and I actually resonate with this, that whenever we have a negative thought or a sort of a heavy or a dark or negative thought, it's actually not even us, but it's the programming that's coming to us, maybe frequency weaponry, who knows, I don't want to get into too much, negative stuff, but, there's a lot of stuff going on that's influencing our mind and our thought processes. And there is that theory that we actually don't, in our best environment and in our best circumstance, we don't have those negative thoughts normally.
No, and the thing about that is, for me, is the more that we find of our true nature and our true self, the less influence that has. But at the moment, there is, I love these sort of things that the controllers grab to instill fear. And, they've been very good at that. And we've been very poor at recognizing it. And we've been very good at just collapsing into that. But we're becoming smarter, I think. And the new Earth human doesn't do that. But what I'm seeing at the moment is this: there's a new thing on the block called the AI. Be afraid of the AI. Well, I have some news for everybody. We are AI. In other words, AI stands for artificial intelligence. Well, from the moment we're born, we are artificially imprinted with an intelligence of somebody else.
Yes.
Wow, that's
We're from so many genetic sort of realms, a DNA, is it 22 different galactic?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the influences through our culture and our religions and our education.
Oh, okay, sure.
Are intentionally,
yes,
artificially imprinted.
yes,
the enslavers want us to perform like.
Sure. So you're talking about cultural conditioning, all that sort of thing.
All of that. So,
Yeah.
and so when we really acknowledge that and you look at yourself and you go, well, hang on, that's what they've been doing to us. They're just putting it into a machine, but we're the machine they've been using before that.
Yes.
And so all the work that you and I are doing is to bring people back to remembering that we are creation in motion. And I keep saying we are creation in motion, we're creation in motion. So part 2 that we're about to embark upon here, and for those of you who haven't seen part 1, I do encourage you to do so, because, you know, it is a step-by-step process like all of what we're doing. And part 2, I was really guided to talk about living consciously. It's something that is becoming more and more prevalent in my awareness, is living consciously. Now, what does that actually mean?
Yes.
Good question. For me, it is living in the absolute present now moment, and picking up my cup intentionally, consciously, without my thoughts going anywhere else, and then having my sip of tea. I love my tea.
Savoring the taste.
Savoring the taste.
Yes.
The warmth, and feeling the warmth on my cold hands, because I'm in Melbourne and it's freezing today.
Oh.
And at the same time being able to be present with you and to be consciously aware of what words are coming out of my mouth, what intentions I have behind those words, and what vibrational frequency I'm radiating as a result of those words and those movements. So, you know, we're robots. So much of our time is spent robotically in reaction to what we have in front of us. And so a new earth human is completely different, because we will live in this innate knowing that we are creation in motion. Therefore, we are conscious of every bit of energy that we radiate. And that's the journey.
It reminds me of a book by Jean-Paul Sartre. You know, he talked about existentialism, and there was a character in the book, the name escapes me, very famous book. But anyway, this main character, he ended up, because of his way of being 100% present in the moment, if he did something, ended up going to jail. But he was in jail and he was 100% present, and he was looking out the window, and because he didn't think about the future, it wasn't really a concern, because he was just looking out at the sunshine out through the window in the jail. And it really summed up the essence of existentialism, what it is, because he wasn't concerned about, you know, the past or the future. He was just right in the moment, and he was just really enjoying that sunshine landing on his face, even though it was a small cell with a small window in the cell, and he was just 100% present. I thought, wow, that really sums up what that means. And so it's also being in your body, 100% embodied in your body, knowing how your body's feeling, really being, you know, 100% present right here, right now, and grounded as well on Mother Earth. That's another important factor. So to master the art of presence is probably really a lifetime journey, because it's something that you can always work on more and more. And to be fully in our joy, we have to be 100% present as well. You can't manifest or co-create things as successfully unless you are 100% present, or at least, you know, have some presence within you. I did actually, just a story, I did, and I know she's probably cabal or whatever, but many years ago I met Kylie Minogue at a party and we were chatting, and she had 100% presence. And you've got to say she did manifest all the stuff, but she was really, really present. Like her focus when she looked at you, she really 100% focused on you, and she had all her focus and energy and concentration on you. And you could really feel it. It was very, very powerful. So she probably was a good manifest, even though, we know a lot of these people have been into things that we don't approve of in any way. But, I just did notice that
Well,
with her.
I don't know that. You don't know that. So we will leave that to the maybes possible.
Yes, the divine knows, and that's all that matters.
Yes. Also, I've learned through these times, because there's been so much finger pointing and, supposition and all of that. And for me, I always address the good in everything, the good in everyone. And so rather than worrying about what we all have to pay the piper for, in karma, let's just focus on, the beauty and the good of nature, the beauty and the good of each other. That is also another part of being a new earth human. But you just opened a real Pandora's box, and I don't know what the box is about, because I've just lost the plot. No. Okay, so let's go to, what does it mean to be completely present? When you're talking about, being in the cell and and being able to be in the moment, that kind of reminds me of Mandela, who always said, you can take my body and you can do it, but you can never have any power over my mind. And I think that is probably the biggest lesson that we have to learn, is to stop giving our mind away. And so there are many things that are in our past and in our present that keep us away from living consciously. One of them is, I think, most powerful, is distractions. We are constantly being distracted. It's like, I remember when my eldest son, who's now in his 50, he was a baby model, and he was sitting there with the photographer, and they're all going, over here, smile, do this, do that. He was very easy. He just sat and did what he was supposed to do. But that's what we do. We go, come on, even children need to have their photos taken. Come on, over here, smile to mommy. Yeah. So, but isn't that what is fed to us all the time? If you turn on any kind of media, open any magazine, the amount of commercialism is ridiculous. I used to like getting magazines, with some purpose in them and some substance in them. And then they just, more and more of the pages became commercials.
Yes, that's true.
And there was almost no substance. And so that has become the biggest distraction. It's like the trinkets. It's like having the rattle for the baby. Over here, over here, over here. And we're constantly distracted from the present moment, from that appreciation in the small cell of the sunshine, because we're too busy trying to get to the rattle and all the gratuitives. So being distracted, and this is why meditation is so important. And people say, I can't meditate. Well, let's take the mystique away and know what meditation means. Meditation simply means focusing on one thing. So that is why so many of, the real mystics tell you to sit with a candle and just observe the flame, because that brings you to that one moment, that single observation of focus, and it bleeds out the distractions. That's what we really supposed to learn to do in meditation. And so that is vital for us to realize that, sit. Hello, puppy.
I got to let my puppy out. 2 seconds.
See, this is what live TV is about, what live streaming is about. I just love that. And by the way, that beautiful painting that you just saw is one of Medina's art projects, and I love that. It's so gorgeous. So it's the distractions, we're constantly distracted by
Like that.
I've closed my door, so my fur babies, which are two cats that usually walk in front of the screen, and all you see is their bottoms and their tails, which is not really friendly. Okay, so what I encourage people to do is to look at their lives and go, what do I give, what distractions do I give my power to that takes me away from being able to be consciously present in the moment? That's one of them. So I'd like you to talk about distraction for a while, because I have another one.
Sure. Well, one of the major ones that is the culprit, I think, for so many people, and so many younger people as well, is the mobile phone, of course. You go out, everyone's got their head in their phone. I went for a walk around the Oval the other day, and there was a young boy, and I was going to say hi to him. I was just all happy to say, oh, hi. And he just wouldn't stop looking at his phone. It's frustrating. In the past, you get to say hello to people, and, now it's just a way of avoiding, and ignoring and not engaging. It is a way of really going against organic relationships in a sense. So that's a major one that stands out. Then there's things like consumerism, materialism. If I just buy that new dress, then I'm going to feel better. Or if I just, if I eat my favorite meal for lunch, I'm going to feel better. All distractions. So the everything that we are doing, sort of in a sense, that's not just being still and present and in the moment, is a distraction. I mean, a major distraction is the fact that we have to earn money in order to pay for our bills, in order to so-called survive. And so we spend so much of our time engaged in work and just trying to, earn an income. And it's, ideally what you want to have in terms of balance in your life is at least putting, I would say, a quarter of your time into self-nurturing, into internal work, into things to do with, really supporting your own self and your self-evolution. So a quarter of the time, if we look at that in terms of our schedules in a week, most people wouldn't be doing 25% of that. But I think that most, if someone writes down the percentages of how they spend their time in the week, they'll probably find that a huge chunk of it is to do with work and to do with earning the money that they need to get by, and or what they think, and then that, of course, is encouraged by the whole materialism thing, which says we need this, we need that, we need a house, we need a mortgage, we need in order to fit in order to be part of the society, and blah blah blah. And then there goes all our time, because we've got to earn all this money to pay for it all. So that's one of the biggest distractions. And I went against the tide there, because my partner and I, for many, many years, we just got a caravan and a van and drove around Australia and didn't engage in all that stuff. So that was great. But it was at times, it was hard to. We obviously had a minimal. I mean, I had work and everything that I was doing, but it wasn't like we had big income or anything. But we were able to get by, and we didn't have to fit into the whole societal conditioning of the enslavement of the 9 to 5 and all that sort of thing. I couldn't do it anyway. For at least 15 years I haven't really been able to engage in that, because my energy is different. I can't do that. It's not my thing at all. That's all distraction. I would say in terms of a positive form of distraction, this morning before I got on chatting to you, I was given a commission to do of a soul painting, and I focused meditatively on this person's energy and their soul, and I went into that, and then I got this sort of vision of what it was, and then I went into a zone, and I was just like, it was like a meditation. It was like going into this zone where I'm just focusing on this painting, and I lost track of time, as you do. But I knew I had to come and talk to you, so I had that in the back of my mind, but I did lose track of time. And I sort of stopped at 11. I thought, oh my God, I've got to walk my dog, this sort of thing. So, but I went into this zone, and it was 100% in sort of occupying all my energy and all my attention, and all other things were gone. So this was like being in that moment and being in that sort of divine flow of energy, which is really, really beautiful. It's so nurturing for the soul and creative.
You know how you said, you keep saying last week about how amazing and serendipitous and synchronistic it is how one person says something and something else. So I just wrote down something that absolutely segues into what you just said, and that is the new earth. That is our relationship with work.
Yes.
So the new earth human will not be working for an income.
No, not at all. They'll have their needs met in that way. So it's
no. Can I? Sorry, but I just wanted. Yeah, the reason is, and this is really what part 3 is going to be about.
Okay.
The new earth human is a conscious creator. So therefore, but that's not the point. The new earth human will only do work that the soul requires it to do. In other words, only do what you and I are doing. We are fulfilling our soul mission in service to humanity. And the new earth human will do that, knowing that once you do that, all is supplied.
People say to me, they say, oh my gosh, I can't believe all the things you do. I mean, my list of stuff that I do is huge. I've got so many things I'm working with and working on, but I'm able to do it because I'm fueled by divine energy, because it is soul work, and it's sort of like it creates more energy by doing it, because you're feeding your soul. And an example of that is we're putting together a documentary called The New Golden Age, and oh my God, when I get involved in that, and we went out to shoot it and everything in these stunning locations with these amazing people, and when I think about that project and putting energy into that, I just get so excited, and it's so inspiring for me, and so that energy creates more energy, so then you've got more energy to do more things, and so yeah, it's interesting how it works.
So it's like, again, you said, I forgot time. And we when you're in the zone, you get to a place where there is no time, there is no distraction, there's no interruption, there's pure consciousness.
Yes.
Pure consciousness being expressed through you, for you, with you, according to what I call your encoded authentic self. And that is just, that is pure heaven.
That's the zone you want to get to. Well, my dad, everyone gets to it so differently. My dad says that he would get that when he used to do a lot of bushwalking. He's older now, but he would get it through bushwalking. Yep. I get it through creative things, like making the documentary, through painting, through singing, through music, those sorts of things, and meditation as well. But there's so many ways that will speak to your soul that are different to someone else. That is your way of getting to that space.
Yeah, and and it's this zone is when you are in the purest that is possible to be, in this state that we are in, and we need to really hone in on that, and we need to expand on that. And so the new earth human lives in the zone, in that zone of which is direct connection to source. It is, you're talking about, what is your zone. I'm in my zone right now, right? This is my mission. My mission is to be the sage, to be the wisdom keeper, to bring, you know, this wisdom down from wherever it is and express it through words and deeds. And so
No,
that's,
I am too. I love it.
I know, that's
I
what I
love
want,
it. It's
you
very
know,
fun. You can tell because it makes you smile, makes you happy, and
absolutely,
raises your
absolutely.
energy, lifts you up. You know, that's a signal straight away that you're in. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. We actually said goodbye to one of our community yesterday, and she didn't want to have the usual funeral. She wanted to have a party. She was a party girl,
I
loved
love
social
that.
stuff.
I love that.
So they had this barn, and it was all, you know, with fairy lights and lots of martinis because that's what she liked. And I just could feel her dancing around, and it was just
Oh,
so beautiful. But anyway, one of the gentlemen there, he had found my book in amongst her things, and he was saying he couldn't put it down. And he was, I said, well, I started to talk to him, and at one stage, so he met other people of our community, and he goes, you know, I'm looking at you all, and you all have something in your eyes that tells me that you know something that I don't.
oh.
And I went, that's it, isn't it? That's it. When we find that space, that zone, that true connection with source, then there is nothing that really can distract us. It is all, it just keeps pulling us back. And the new earth human in its state of pure consciousness has, it's to do with intention. You know, it's an intentional movement. I intentionally pick up my cup. You know, I intentionally speak with you. It's all about that, the intention, and behind that goes the biggest, another one that stops us from stepping into this new human that we are to become, whether you like it or not. I've got, you know, apologies, but that's where we're going. Is the lack of accountability.
Right. Yes. Well, people find it intimidating sometimes to confront their own shadow self, to confront the things that they need to look at in order to evolve and to grow. And I guess it takes people to be ready consciously to be able to look at themselves really honestly and to say, you know, what do I need to work on myself? You know, everything can be worked on, everything is energy. You know, there's nothing that you can't work on. But I think, you know, when you first come to that point where you're ready to work on it, can be quite overwhelming and intimidating for people. And I think that that's, you know, about the accountability. It's much easier to say, oh, it's my partner. He's being really badly behaved, or it's somebody else, a neighbor down the street, or, you know, it's a work colleague who's the problem. But always that is in your reality so that you can bring it back to yourself and look at what you need to work on yourself. And that is just really a soul who's come into, probably got a soul contract with you or something, with an agreement to show you what you need to be shown in order to learn what you need to learn. And so it is very easy when you are sort of in fear or emotionally triggered easily, or you're just in a place of, I guess, ego, where you think, I am pretty great. It's everyone else around me. And you know, when you talk about dissolution of the ego, that's also what we were talking about previously, which is being in that zone is dissolution of the ego as well, because it's like your individual identity, your I self, just sort of disappears and goes away, and you become part of the greater whole. It's like it's like you're not an individual being. It's like you don't have that sort of ego self, and so that is something that we're sort of dissolving more and more in order to get to this new earth human.
Yeah. And, you know, the other part of the accountability that we avoid is we are responsible. In other words, that, you know, it is because we are the creators of our reality. And I'm going to really address that, you know, further, but because that is the truth. We are energy in motion, and whatever energy we're radiating is, it's an electromagnetic thing.
Emotion, energy in motion.
That's what it says,
Yeah.
emotion. Yeah. And so, but we have been so programmed out of having any self-belief that that we're capable, that that the not enough has been I reckon that's been injected in us, right? Nothing's ever enough, we're never enough. And so then we become afraid. Self-doubt is such an that's an injurious emotion to or belief to have. Self-doubt, it eats away at us, and it eats away at our power that we have inside. And so this huge bridge that humanity has to cross to leave behind that misinformation that we are not capable, that we haven't, that we're not enough, that we're not, because we have to accept full responsibility for who we are, what we say, what we think, what we do, and not turn around and give that to somebody else. And so what we've done over the years is that we've given that power to somebody else, and that is why the enslavers can tell us what to do, because we don't have the faith within ourselves to actually have that full responsibility, the ability to respond by choice for our highest good. So we hand it to somebody else.
There's so many points I could make from that. Where do I go next? Well, there's a lot of things in there. Well, one thing I was just going to say was considered the #1 UK so-called therapist is Marissa Peer, and she says her major thing that she says to clients often is to really integrate the words, and if they have to repeat them and use the affirmation over and over, is I am enough. To write it up on their walls, put it on their fridge, put it on the mirror, I am enough. Because most people, she says, that come into her say that they have these self-worth issues and they just don't feel like they're enough. So you're right, very, very indoctrinated on every level, so that we can be controlled by our controllers, since the moment that we set foot in this, realm. And I think that people need to really know that they're divine, infinite creator beings. We have God within us. We are part of God. We are God. And people don't like it when you say we are God, but you know what I mean. We are God in a sense. And so, if we're God, well, there's nothing that we can't do. We're infinite. So wrapping our heads around that and really understanding the infinite potential of what that means is something that is really good to focus our attention on, because I think it scares people. It's that saying that our true potential is much more fearful for people than thinking about the things that are the problems in their life.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, when we say this, God consciousness is who we are. But, what accountability means is the buck stops with you. We have to stop pointing our finger, because, the 3 fingers are pointing back at you, that ugly thing. So, it's true. And so, this thing about always looking for someone to blame, always for something. There must be a reason for this. There must be to be purely living consciously means that in every moment you are aware of the impact that you're putting out there. And if you are aware of that, why would you put impact out there that is going to come back and bite you in the bum? That's where the buck stops with you. When you become love, love becomes you. Oh, I love that.
That's really nice. Bumper sticker, definitely. There's that thing of, when something perceivably goes wrong in your reality, it's not saying, oh, I'm a victim. You know, that's the major thing that many people do, is to say they're a victim, going into victim consciousness. But it's to say, okay, this has happened to me. What is behind this? You know, what could be the qualities that I'm learning through this experience that perhaps I don't currently embody, that I don't have in the world, that maybe I need to learn? What's this? So, for example, someone treats us badly and we have to learn unconditional forgiveness. You know, would that be a quality that is an important priority for our soul to learn at this time? And then when we have fully embodied that quality and we've really understood the lesson behind that, the physical circumstance just disappears. It goes away because there's no need for it anymore. You might get a few continual lessons just to make sure that you've got the message, that you've learned it, that are similar. But, you know, basically it's always going in underneath and saying, okay, this is a learning opportunity. What is it teaching?
That is the one. You know, I always say everything is offering you a gift. Every bit of pain is
That's why
offering you
it's
a gift.
present.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Open it in the present. Be present with your gift. You know as well as I do, and I think when people examine their lives, that the most painful times in your life have actually been the greatest gifts. Because
Yeah.
you know what it does is it forces you to look somewhere other than out there. It forces you to look within to find what, you know, it's always alerting you that there's more of you that you haven't discovered yet. So
It's
when we collapse into that victimhood,
mm,
we, you know, all that we're doing is to ask for a bigger whack.
mm,
know, because we're not using it for, you know, our greatest good, we're using it for our lesser good. And
mm.
so when we learn to look at problems as an opportunity for change, then we go, oh, there must be something in me that I haven't discovered yet that is asking to be now, you know, expressed and shown and used. And that again is part of this living consciously. It is reminding yourself that everything that comes your way is telling you something not about out there, it's telling you something about you in here. And
Absolutely.
you know, that is what conscious living is all about. It's what are you telling me? What is this telling me? What is the gift in this situation? And that is both for the good and the challenging.
Well, you can do it for everything. Absolutely can. I know that for a fact because one thing that happened to me was my baby daughter passed at birth. And so when you go through an experience like that, you know, you could easily collapse in a heap and say, oh, you know, da da da. And then this has happened to me. But what I did was, I did feel like I went into quite a dark hole, a bit of a tunnel, but, I started writing to sort of express it in words and as a cathartic thing to release. But then what I realized retrospectively when I look back at that was there were multidimensional meanings why that situation occurred. But it really, number one, taught me that I had incredible resilience because I would have people come to me and they would go, oh, I'm so sorry. And then they'd burst into tears and I'd be comforting them, making them feel better. And it's like, then we're going through this current phase at the moment, which is, can be quite intense, these last few years and, this real transition phase that we're going through. And, we're seeing people that are impacted by this, it takes a certain level of strength and resilience. And I say to myself, well, I got through that back then and that made me stronger. And I know how incredibly strong I am. And that serves me in really good stead right now for everything that we're going through. And this allows me actually to have a platform to help a lot of people because partly because that experience happened to me and it was a very steep learning curve, but it was really on so many levels it was incredible incredible gift, believe it or not. And people might find that hard to understand, but it was.
I see that so often because, parents who lose children and they use that opportunity for the most incredible growth. They gift their energy to other things that as you have done. And it is about resilience. At my stage of life, and I know I talk about it a lot, although I was told once about Mary Kay actually told me that, a woman who tells of her age will tell you anything. But I'm really happy with the fact that of the resilience of this body. I get up every morning and I look at my feet and I go, how far have you walked? You little platforms. Have you ever thought, when you look at your body, that those little platforms, no bigger than your hand, hold you up? It's a miracle in itself, I think.
Yes.
So, and we just take that for granted. We just hop out of bed and we think about, I've got to have my coffee. And no, look at your feet and go, thank you. I every morning I am so in awe of the resilience of this physical expression of myself.
Absolutely.
And I go, wow, obviously I'm here and I've got still a mission because I'm just leapt out of bed and I had to laugh just before we went into the shutdown situation. I was running a small workshop and I had a young man who came and he'd never been before and he was sitting there and we had been talking for a little while and I knew it was time for a break. So I just leapt up out of my chair and said, time for a cuppa, let's go. And then, a few days later, his partner said to me, my goodness, my friend, he kept talking all the way home, but she's in it, she's 80 and she just leapt out of her chair.
That's fantastic.
And I thought, yeah, but that's what you talked about before. That is the energy from source.
Yes.
It's a direct energetic fuel because you are living your mission. You are doing the work of soul. And when you do the work of soul, you are energized by soul. You are supplied by soul. And you are able to live consciously in that zone and take full accountability for every thought you think, every word you speak, every deed you enact. And that's one of the hardest things for humanity to actually swallow, that the buck does stop with me.
I think
that is the power.
Yes. I think one way to also really help with that process, and I know, again, it may sound a little cliched, but it is to be really in extreme gratitude of every moment, having gratitude for your breath that you're breathing, having gratitude for your body, which is what you were just talking about, having gratitude for the sunshine, for the ability to get up and do things, there's so many things we can be grateful for. And that gratitude is a fuel in itself, the energy of that.
Gratitude to me is, that old saying about open sesame, to get the door of the magician open. Well, yes. I think that thank you.
Yes.
Is the secret.
Yes.
Key to that. When we live in gratitude, we open the doors to more.
More gratitude, absolutely. It's so true.
More of what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
So if you're grateful for your health and your resilient body, then that's more of that you receive. If you're grateful for every small amount of beautiful food that you're given, then you get more of that. If you're grateful for every loving relationship that you have in your life, then you'll have more of that. If you're grateful for every little amount of money that you have, that opens the door to more. But we spend so much time in fear of lack that it we're distracted of being grateful for what is and what we have. And so that's yet another way that we are taken off being consciously aware humans, in the new earth human form.
And another way that we're taken off track is to be in comparison of others.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
That person has way more money than I do. I've got lack. It's everyone's soul path is so unique based on many lifetimes, and we can't know another's path, what they've been through, and it's all just about focusing on your own journey, and not in any way comparing. That's in that very famous piece of writing starting with S. What's that called again? S. It's in a lot of toilets. You go in and then people have got it framed. Oh, I've gone blank on it. People will know that are listening, but it says very clearly in that it's got a lot of sort of great ideas about how to live your life. If you compare yourself to others, you're bound to either be superior or otherwise inferior. So it's going to work against you either way. And comparison is really a tool of the dark. So it's just the ability to run your own race and to find the beauty and the joy in even the most simplest things that you have around you. A butterfly flying past, all those sort of things, I've got a story about that actually. I was guided. I woke up one morning. I was guided to record a song, so I recorded this really beautiful song by George Harrison, and I recorded it. And then I sat there, and it was just like a meditation again. It was so beautiful. And then I looked next to me at the curtain inside, and there was this giant butterfly inside. Now we never open our windows or doors because at that time we had all these midges around, and we wouldn't have opened them because it lets all the midges in. So we didn't let it in through a door or a window, but it manifested there as a spirit, sign manifesting, just because I'd done this beautiful song and I was in this beautiful meditative zone, and it was a thing of beauty, and there was a butterfly right on my curtain next to me after I recorded. It was incredible.
And these are the magical things that occur, and we have no rhyme or reason for. I remember some time ago when I did a podcast with my friend Sovereign Anon in Bali, and he was sitting there, and we were talking about what's the insect we're talking about? Dragonflies.
Yes.
And how we love dragonflies. And, as we were talking, a huge dragonfly just flew into the camera view and sat on his knee. And and we were just dumbfounded. We're just going, okay, call that in. And I think that's another thing that we're going to learn as New Earth humans.
I'd love to tell people, please go to check out my artwork on my website. I've got 3 dragonflies on there. One's pink, one's black, and one's white, like backgrounds. So
yeah, because they're so special. And so we call these when we are in the zone, that when we are the pure conduit, and that means that we need to surrender. We need to surrender our ego self, as you said. And we need to do that consciously. We need to make that discernment, that choice, and going, okay, I find being human a real struggle, but I'm here for a reason. And maybe if I just allow that reason to come forward and to live through me and for me, it will not be a struggle. And it isn't a struggle anymore. Everything.
When you surrender, it's not a struggle because you're handing it up to God. Letting go.
Yeah. And so, it is that wonderful sort of moment where you just go, okay, my ego self seems to get distracted. My ego self is too afraid to take responsibility. My ego self is so programmed away from knowing who I truly am. So I've struggled enough with that. So I'm going to consciously surrender to the highest version of me, the soul self, and make that the master of my ship. And I keep talking about that. Give mastery to your soul. Don't give mastery outside of yourself to a government, to a religion, to a false belief of any sort, whether it comes from your programmed mind or whether it comes from outside of yourself. If it doesn't come from your heart connection, if it doesn't resonate and it doesn't feel like a song, where the heart is in unison with your vibrational frequency, then don't put conscious energy into it. And that is so important. We are putting so much conscious energy, so much unconscious energy, and that is it. The subconscious is the unconscious energy, and
Yes.
whilst the subconscious is still filled with the programming, it takes an enormous amount of power of consciousness to be aware of that, so that you don't enact it.
Yes.
And then because they're the neural pathways that are set by the continuous repetition of that. And so to change that, we have to very consciously decide what's really out calling us from in here. And then we need to create these new neural pathways by consciously going in a different direction. And so this is really what the foundation of part 2 is about, is become more consciously aware of whether you are acting out of a programmed subconscious mind or whether you are consciously aware of enacting from the heart space.
If you're not doing that, because I totally agree, the whole thing about going into this new earth reality is to become an intentional co-creator, and otherwise we're just a leaf in the breeze blowing around at the whim of the wind, wherever the wind blows us. And that's a good analogy, I think, to really understand what that means. And it reminds me of someone I was talking to the other day who, just as an example, they were following somebody on YouTube that they thought was, a really great spiritual teacher, coach. And then this person, they sort of put a lot of faith and straw into what this person said. And then this person that they were listening to said something really left of center. It was really a little bit, absurd. It was a whole new thing that just came from, goodness knows where. And then they were really thrown because this person that they'd been following, who was on a certain track, suddenly went on a different direction and had a whole different philosophy on things, and then they were discombobulated within themselves. So that's just the a physical reality version of what I was just talking about with the leaf blowing in the breeze. So you can't keep your rudder straight, you can't keep your center or your foundation when this external input is coming in and creating who you are and what you want to think and what you want to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's so much out there that is willing to take you off course. So much out there. And so, really what you and I are really wanting people to hear from our discussion is to pull in your distracted chatterbox mind and bring it into focus in the now moment. And the more that we live in the now moment, actually the easier life becomes, because if you can do it in 1 second, you can do it in 2 seconds. And we only have the now moment, but are we present? Are we present? Where are your thoughts? And if you're not present in the moment, and hey, I'm sure, Medina, you'll agree, you and I, we've been doing this for a long time and we still drift off.
Oh, yes.
I catch myself.
Oh, yeah. There's so much to learn. It doesn't matter.
I catch myself and I go,
learn.
Really, I thought, what was it doing there? I'm learning it here.
It does get better as you have more experience and you get older. I must say it does get easier and get better. But, oh, yes, always so much to learn. But breath work, that's a really great way to be embodied in the now moment and to be present, to focus on your breath. Another way is just to really focus, for example, on one part of your body. Just focus on your finger for a moment and just really focus all your energy on that finger. That's a really great way to develop self-mastery. That breath work is really, really important. And it's a known fact that when we're stressed, we breathe very, very shallowly. So when you're breathing deeply and you're really conscious of your breath, that these are physical sort of tools in your toolkit that you can use to help with that.
There's a secondary thing to the breath work, and I'm not sure that people are conscious of it. Breath is life force entering into our bodies.
Yes.
So when you focus on that breath, you are tuned into the life force that you really are.
Yes.
And it's very, very powerful stuff. And that is why it is so strange, and that people are asking you to do things to curtail that breath. And that's when you say, no, thank you, I like to breathe. People are always asking me, so what do you do for a living? And I go, I breathe. What do you do?
Well, they're not silly, the dark. They know how important breath is.
Yeah.
And to our evolution, to our well-being. And so they've formulated these strategies because these are the strategies that they think can most undermine our spiritual evolution and growth.
Well, I've enjoyed this discussion with you again. I don't know if, people, you can enjoy it, but Medina and I, we've been in the zone. So if you want to be in the zone, then, just look at us. We're just these very consciously aware people that just are in the zone and enjoying it as conduits of our true nature and really focused on becoming this new earth human so that we move into the new earth of the golden age, which you are doing this documentary about, and I'm really excited about. If you want to connect with Medina, well, there are links in the description box, and please do visit her YouTube channel, and she has so much wisdom there, and she is prolific on screen, I can tell you.
Busy.
And she does have other guests on her, and they're wonderful. And if you want to follow my work or connect with me, then also the links are in the description box. And we are planning to do this again, not next week, because I'm going to go up a bit closer to you. I'll be up in Queensland going to a beautiful wedding of a very new earth human, and well, 2 new earth humans. And that'll be very nice. So we'll skip a week. And in that time, why not practice being a new earth human and just being more consciously aware? But most of all, just something that you said I'd really like for me to complete on. And that is, you said, you are enough, or I am enough. So on my mirror, so anybody who comes to see me for a one-on-one or a workshop that I do in my home, they go to the bathroom. I have with lipstick written, you are enough. So it's very important. You can't wash your hands in my house without knowing you are enough. Thank you, Medina, once more. It's been a delight.
I love it.
And I look forward to us, doing this again. And everyone, just love yourself more. You are creation in motion. You are God consciousness in human form. Don't let anybody tell you different. Thank you so much, Medina. Would you like to complete with some wise words from you?
Oh, how they follow. Well, I think that my message would be that as we go forward as creators, knowing that everything that is around us is made of atoms, and those atoms are there for us to influence in the way that we choose. If we choose not to influence them, they can go off and do whatever they want, which may not be in our best interest. But if we want to create our own best reality, the atoms around us in every form that exist are there for us to co-create what they are to do. So, for example, when you're eating food, in those atoms of the food, you give a beautiful blessing, and that you're co-creating the best possible quality of food that you can eat through your conscious intention. And I think that's part of going into this new reality, is just to know that we have to be responsible for being these co-creators that are influencing every single atom around us at every moment. And if we don't do that, that's slipping into the 3D, which is going backwards, which is where we just allowed everything to happen willy-nilly. And that's how we got to the sort of the sort of dire state in many respects that we have on the earth, because we just allowed that to happen. We can't continue doing that. We have to learn to exist as a co-creational force.
Thank you so much. Very wise words. Have a wonderful couple of weeks. We'll return and we'll have more words of wisdom. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.